Hello, America. This is Wednesday, March 29th, 2023, and you're listening to the DMZ America podcast. Coming to you from the left, I'm political cartoonist Ted Rall.
And I'm political cartoonist Scott Stantis, coming to you from the right.
Today, we have some interesting stories to talk about. The United States Senate has voted to overturn the 2001 authorization to use military force that passed after 9/11 and was used to justify the invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as pretty much every other military operation over the last 20 years. There's a story that we'll get to later in the show about reparations, plans for reparations to Black Californians and how that would look and how that would work. And we'll talk a little bit about Ron DeSantis. And he had
crazy mixed up kid.
Crazy mixed up kid.
Give him noogies.
Yeah, and really how he should be disqualified, not just from the American presidency, but from walking free. So we'll get to that. So Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm here in California. I'm officiating my nephew's wedding, so that's coming up in a day. So I'll be doing that.
I see you're already at the ceremonial site. Beautiful.
Well, I'm wearing the black, so I have to put the collar. Yeah, this is my brother-in-law's library. So
Bride is so lucky.
I officiate great because nobody remembers the ceremony. Nobody. So I just do a tight 6 to 10 minutes. It's super fast. You do, we all do. Let's drink.
And you've done this, am I right, 9 times?
This will be my 9th wedding, yes.
Holy shit. You know, I've officiated 2 weddings and I thought I was awesome. But I mean, I'll never catch up. I'd have to live to be 100. And by then you will have officiated like thousands of weddings. You'll be like the
No, you just have to do it for free. That seems to be the trick.
I just do it
free for free.
I'm a total, I'm an officiating whore. Hey, so if you want Ted Rall to officiate your wedding, tweet at me, Ted Rall, at Ted Rall, but I will charge you money because I need money. Yeah, see, that's when I'm already.
Well, just fly us out. I mean, that's the thing is one of the weddings, they actually put me up. So that was nice. They put Jenny and I up. But past that, most of the time, it's pretty much just free. 8 weddings so more. I'm 5-3. So what's your record? If you've had 2 weddings, are you 2-0? Are they still married?
What do you mean? You mean like they're still going?
Yeah.
Both weddings
are
both marriages are still
5-3.
Both marriages are still going.
So you're undefeated.
I'm undefeated. That's right. Okay. But I haven't had as much skin in the game. So
no, I've been 5-3. A bunch of kids. So I'm like I said, I'm right on the cusp of the playoffs. Hopefully we can make this one stick. So
and like there was no like Scott Peterson type situation where it ended very, very badly.
Not that badly, no. One could have, but didn't.
Oh, good. All right, so
a couple of them actually, and it was potentially they were.
Yeah. No Alex Murdaugh type situations.
No, not that I'm aware of.
All right.
If there was, they did very, very well. I'm proud of that.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the AUMF. So this is kind of curious, right? I mean, America's Constitution very clearly gives the right to declare war to the president. Not to the president, but to the Congress. But Congress has only exercised the right to declare war 5 times in its history. Most recently in 1941 after Pearl Harbor to start World War II. And it's really crazy. All these other big wars like Vietnam and Korea, those were police actions or something else. I mean, proxy wars don't count. Afghanistan, Iraq. So Afghanistan and Iraq were kind of basically it was basically the AUMF, the authorization to use military force, was so broad that it effectively was a blank check to the president to basically do whatever the fuck he felt like. Well, if these are people who are doing things that I don't like, we will define that thing that I don't like as terrorism, and therefore I will be able to send the wrath of God down upon them and occupy their lands for as long as we feel like doing until inevitably we lose, which is apparently what we do these days. So,
it's true though.
So so it goes. So that's it. Now it goes to the House. Now what?
I think the Republicans are going to shoot it down. They love this shit, and I think a lot of the Democrats, don't forget, these guys run every 2 years, so there's an election coming up next year. Do you really want to be painted as, you were against our boys and excuse me. There was
Happy COVID.
There.
but wait, so okay, well, I was thinking about that. We talked about this a little bit earlier, and I basically my first impulse was to agree with you, but then I started thinking, but what about the Trumpies? I mean, Trump's had this influence that's sort of anti-interventionist or skeptical of interventionism. He negotiated the withdrawal from Afghanistan. We all forget that because Biden executed it so well. But and he recently said that he wants to bring an end to the war, the Ukraine-Russia conflict. He's definitely against these wars, and a lot of Republican voters are too. The president is a Democrat, so allowing AUMF to stay in force means effectively that the Republican House would be saying, hey, Democrat Joe Biden, we trust you in your sharp-minded abilities to decide whether or not to send troops into harm's way. You know what I mean? Does that mix? Does that?
No, now that you say that,
it
totally makes it. Yeah, because we talked about this on another podcast, and we talked about the Republicans weirdly becoming the anti-war party. And I think I don't disagree with them. War is stupid. War is idiotic, expensive, never ends well, and in fact, pretty much ends where it should have started, with two parties talking to each other and negotiating, and to the means to the end, or whatever. So in this case, I think when you said that, the second you started saying it, I go, yeah, you know what, he's right. The Trumpies are the anti-war party now.
Even DeSantis, who is has had to kind of echo that line too.
And yeah, we're going to be talking about him soon. And he wasn't always that way, was he, Ted?
No, not really. No.
So where does this go? Yeah, you know what? If it goes to the House, it could still pass. It's going to be. There are Democrats who are going to be loath to vote for it, and I understand that. But frankly, I totally agree with this measure. I haven't had a chance. It happened very shortly before we started recording this. I don't know what the breakdown of the vote was. Was it along party lines? Was it, were there some Republicans who joined in on this? I don't know. I would hope so, because it would certainly be on brand. I've always kind of been.
It was a bipartisan effort, Scott. 66 to 30.
There you go. I'm wondering who the 30 are. I can kind of guess. Probably the same assholes who were actually in the Senate 20 years ago who voted for it.
Probably.
But wars, like I said, wars are dumb. They're a waste of time and money, energy, effort. If they can be avoided, we should. And giving carte blanche to any executive, regardless if they have an R or a D after their name, is stupid. So rescinding this makes a lot of sense. And you're right too. There's going to be a bipartisan in the House. They're going to say, do we want to give this authority and let Joe Biden continue to have it? And if he does, then guess what? Look at what's happening in Ukraine, which is the dumbest fucking buildup I've ever seen in my entire life. Ted and I actually agree with this 1000%. You could potentially see boots on the ground. And initially, Ted and I actually argued about this. I said, there's no way that could happen. Well, once again,
sorry,
Ted, damn you wrong.
Well, especially if we give them the F-16s they want.
Well, yeah, and you just passed me an article earlier in the day that they're thinking of turning F-16s into drones.
Yeah, they have a pilot program. Obviously, members of the military read way too many Marvel and DC superhero comics, and so Project Venom.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, you can't make this shit up. And Project Venom, they are literally tricking out six. This is an experiment, but they're tricking out 6 F-16s and turning them into drones, just because. Now, I gotta say,
what could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong? I mean, I have to say parenthetically, what I think the United States should do here is the US should declare an emergency meeting of the United Nations and say, listen, we are ahead of everyone else on this technology. We can fill the skies with killer assassination planes. We can do that. And we're ahead. We have more money and we're ahead of everyone. So why don't we, as a world, decide that we will all sign a commitment, an international treaty promising not to ever develop or deploy such weapons in the future?
Because we are never proactive. We're always reactive as a species on weapons. Always have been. You know, we didn't say we will never. People knew the atomic bomb was possible.
Yeah.
In theory, before we actually dropped a couple of them. There was no effort at all to say, you know what, this might be a bad idea. Here's the other thing.
There was some effort. Einstein famously wrote to the president
afterwards, after the experiments in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Here's my take on this issue. I mean, and it's a side issue to what we were talking about, but I think it's an important point to make, Ted. And that's that war. You know, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. But the Kosovo War was a great example of what can happen with drone warfare. We threw a bunch of missiles in, and it really did. The Serbian forces had to pull back, stop the ethnic cleansing, and when we threw bombs into Belgrade, it made a difference. But what really bothered me, I said it then, and the amount of eye rolling was horrible. No boots on the ground, Ted. Now, why is this bad? Because it's bad because there's no skin in the game now. Then
there's no risk. I had this conversation with Bernie Sanders when I interviewed him for my book about him. And it shocked me because he's pro-drone. And he said, you know, what's the difference if a gun kills someone or a drone kills someone? And I said, the difference is that it makes going to war easy. We don't have to think about it because we're not risking any caskets coming home to crying mothers.
Right.
And even he sort of was like, oh yeah, I can see that. Didn't change his mind, but you know,
no, the drones have to. I mean, they're too. It's too easy.
They should be banned.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I'd have to I've never given that enough thought to consider it seriously, but I think you may be onto something.
They're already being deployed in. I mean, they have been used in warfare already quite a bit around the world, but right now in Ukraine. And Russia, across, you know, the Ukrainian drones and have been in Russia. Those attacks that have been quite a distance from the Ukraine-Russia border in Russia have been carried out by drone strikes. You know, this is terrifying. I mean, the potential for spread and mission creep and you know, just unanticipated consequences is enormous.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, they also have drones that now choose their own targets. That they're AI drones.
I'm going to say you built a career on the build-up after 9/11, talking about drone attacks and saying how bad and dangerous and inhuman they are when they were being used in Afghanistan. And you know, try to have you're just some nice couple trying to have a nice wedding reception, you know, and then hey, what's that buzzing sound?
Right. Obviously, I've had no success at all in that respect. No one cares about this. It is I mean, it's the American people give no shits about drones. They'll care when foreign drones appear here.
What's interesting is the crowd that wants to ban landmines wouldn't jump on this.
Right. I mean, landmines are far less dangerous.
Well, and you're right. The fact that now we're having AI, which apparently, if you haven't read the article, Ted and I had a terrible falling out. It's amazing, isn't it? Ted, just for those of you who may not read.
Well, I mean, according to the AI, to Chat GPT, Scott, what this resentment really boils down to is that time that we were both up for the Pulitzer together. And
who could forget? Those are salad days, my friend.
And then you accused me of plagiarism. And then I accused you of unnamed improprieties. I think.
Did you? No, I don't think that.
Probably not wiping from back to front instead of the proper front to back. Always the toilet paper roll always comes over, not under. You know,
there's a lot of dissent. There's a lot of tension in our relationship. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
No, but that's what they said. And then Ted put in, tell me the relationship with Scott Stantis and Ted Rall, and came up with this ridiculous scenario. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
But
So
those,
choose
but
as its
that's
own
so
target,
so that what
and
I'm
it's
saying. But
wrong.
getting back to that's the technology we're going to rely on for a really significant weapon of mass destruction to make its own choices.
It's kind of interesting that Elon Musk, who founded or co-founded OpenAI, which is the company that developed Chat GPT, is one of 1,000 signatories to a letter that was just a public letter that just came out, stating that there needs that all AI development should be stopped until Congress and federal regulators are able to put safeguards into place.
Do you think your column had something to do with that? And I'm just being serious. It was in the Wall Street Journal, which I'm sure he reads.
I mean, I think that, look, there's been a lot of writing about Chat GPT. My column was about how it's kind of a libel machine, as we talked about. But others have written about other very embarrassing mistakes that AI made, like Bing's new search engine is powered by AI, and it made at the press conference, it made some ridiculously basic error when asked a question about astronomy. So
Really?
there's
I
just
think we
like,
get that one right.
well, you would certainly get that one right. So that is it's just there's a lot. So I think it's like my piece may have been part of the mix, maybe, perhaps.
Well, hey, Ted, let me jump in. We have breaking news
Oh, what's up?
here. It's breaking at the moment, and we'll talk about it. Pope Francis is in the hospital with a pulmonary infection.
Yep. I wonder if it's COVID.
Infection or infarction? Hold on.
Or an infarction.
Infection.
Let's see if it's AI. It's infarction.
It's
or an inflection. That's just his accent, you idiots.
And it was given to him by Joey Heatherton. Your thoughts? I mean, initial thoughts on? Do you have it? I know you were raised Catholic, and now you're not.
Well, I mean, I think there's no better pun intended. I think Pope Francis has been a great blessing to the Catholic Church. He was the Pope that, frankly, we needed decades ago. He helped turn the corner and settle and take out the trash from the pedophile priest scandals. He returned the church to a church of mercy, as taught by Christ, as opposed to sort of hard ass authoritarianism, which is sort of the direction that we ended up with John Paul, and culminating with Benedict. So he's a great Pope. He's 86 years old. I hope that he sticks around for his own sake, but really the church needs him. And I think he's been a very positive force as a world leader, and he's so progressive and smart. I mean, he's made really great statements about LGBT rights and dignity, about the role of women in the church and in society in general. So one can take issue with him about various specifics, but in the aggregate, he's great.
Yeah, I really liked him, but it's just stunning how many conservatives there are, especially in the American church, who do not care for him, and they're hoping for
they
these.
dig that authoritarianism.
Yeah, they like the you are wrong and going to hell no matter what.
And it's like, what they're going to end up with is empty pews, even more than they have now.
Where they are now, anyway. I mean, and that's an issue I probably should bring up in another podcast, is the end of religiosity in the Western world.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time in the history of the United States, a minority of people go to church.
Yeah,
first time in our history.
It's super interesting, and a lot of people say that they will publicly admit that they're atheist. So
wow.
They didn't used to. I mean, when we were kids, it was like 90% of Americans claimed to
God. Well, not just that, but also patriotism. Did you see the numbers on that recently?
Yeah, but apparently there was some futziness with the numbers, and they kind of were apples to oranges. So it's not strictly true, but basically, yeah, the numbers are down, but not as down as was being reported.
Okay, all right. So next up, we're going to talk about the governor of Florida. and
Yes.
how his shenanigans just
And
a little
his-
bit south of there.
he had a bit of he's done some cool stuff in the past. We'll talk about that.
I don't
Stay
call it cool.
tuned. You'll want to hear this. It is gross. Okay.